I'm gonna just be vulnerable for a second. I'm not giving up. No. I think silence speaks really loud. Seasons of waiting are so challenging. Ooh, this is the one. I'm with you. It's a struggle. You're gonna have to get uncomfortable. Hello, all my beautiful people. It's finally October, and where I live is like 85 degrees, but it does feel very much like October in my spirit. I have my fall decor up. I'm also wearing a sweater because I was like, fall vibes. I love a good sit down chat where I can just word vomit. You know what I'm saying? So this video is for two different groups of ladies. One group is my ladies that are waiting for motherhood, that are struggling with infertility, trying to conceive, IVF, waiting for adoption match, whatever your circumstances look like, you're waiting for motherhood. And then in the other group of ladies, it's my ladies who are already there in motherhood and are wondering, how can you support these ladies over here? How can you be community to them? When this group over here of ladies who have already experienced motherhood have not experienced a wilderness season of waiting, or they haven't experienced pregnancy loss, infertility struggles, when they haven't experienced any of that, I think it can be really hard for them to know even what to say to this group of ladies over here. So oftentimes it's just silent. I also just kind of want to touch on my ladies that are in waiting like myself, the attitude that we need to have and who God calls us to be in this season. So while there are issues on both sides, I really want to tackle this first. This group of ladies, my ladies that are just like me, that are still waiting for their season of motherhood. Let's dive right in. In James chapter 5, there is a passage that's pretty famous. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it before, but I'm just going to read it first and then kind of delve into some notes that I took and a commentary that I used that I found some really, really good stuff in. We're reading in James chapter 5, starting in verse 7. Dear brothers and sisters, be patient as you wait for the Lord's return. Consider the farmers who wait patiently for the rains in the fall and in the spring. They eagerly look for the valuable harvest to ripen. You too must be patient. Take courage, for the coming of the Lord is near. Don't grumble about each other, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. For look, the judge is standing at the door. For examples of patience and suffering, dear brothers and sisters, look at the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. We give great honor to those who endure under suffering. For instance, you know about Job, a man of great endurance. You can see how the Lord was kind to him at the end, for the Lord is full of tenderness and mercy. There is so much to unpack in that, and obviously I am not a pastor and I'm not a theological expert. I'm just a follower of Christ, and I have been for the last 13 years. I was raised in church my whole life. I know a lot about the Bible, but I don't know everything. If I make a mistake, forgive me, I am human. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is just the attitude of my sisters who are waiting alongside me. The main thing in this passage that I really pull from it is this whole attitude of a farmer. I use this app called Enduring Word. It's a commentary. It is so good. It gives me so much more understanding of the Bible. It gives me a lot of historical context. And it just helps me break down and apply what I'm reading, because I think that's the biggest struggle. So the attitude of the farmer, in this commentary, there is some bullet points. They pretty much sum up the attitude that we that are in waiting need to have. When you think about a farmer, they, year in and year out, they're tilling up the soil, they're planting the seeds, they're watering the seeds, and they're waiting for a harvest, year in and year out. And it's what they do. And they don't ever plant the seed and not hope that it's gonna grow. They wait with an attitude of hope and an attitude of planting is going to result in a harvest. Think about every time that you start something new in your journey, in your season of waiting, whatever that looks like for you. When it doesn't work, I kind of imagine it being like a farmer. He plants some seeds and he waters them and he does all the things right, but then they don't grow. And with the right attitude, obviously, he's going to till the ground again, and he's going to plant again, and he's going to water again, and he's going to continue to be faithful in that. For us, what can happen sometimes is we plant the seeds, we water the seeds, they don't grow. And instead of tilling the ground again, we let the ground stay hardened and like packed down. So when we plant new seeds, the ground isn't ready to receive them. The ground is kind of like your heart in a sense. And when you aren't tilling up the ground each and every time, each and every step of your journey and every disappointment and roadblock, if you aren't tilling the ground each time that you're not going back to the Lord and giving him these feelings, and you're not surrendering and allowing him to take the burden off of your shoulders and give you the strength to move forward and to keep going, I think we end up with hard hearts that become very, very bitter. And so I just kind of want to break down these bullet points because there's some of them that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So I'm just going to break down each one really quickly. The first one says, he waits with a reasonable hope and expectation of reward. A reasonable hope. I think about a hope for what we desire, but also a surrendered hope in what we desire, in the sense that above our personal desire, we desire the Lord's will over that, even if it looks different than what we personally desire. And then I also think with reasonable hope, it's exercising that guarding your heart. So not being fearful, but guarding your heart in a way of just exercising wisdom and going into each, opportunity with just an openness to what could happen. The next one is he waits a long time. If you think about it, there are certain things that are planted that take years to see a harvest. Like think about fruit trees. There are fruit trees that you plant that you're gonna wait at least 5 years just to get your first fruit. And the first fruit might not even be good. Farmers are ready and willing to wait a long time. They go into it with that attitude. He waits working all the while. That speaks to me. We put our lives on hold because we feel like our life doesn't really start until we experience motherhood. Like there's this part of life that just we don't have access to until we're there. And that's not true. And we still have a call on our life. He has work for us to do while we're waiting. The next one is he waits depending on things out of his own power with his eye on the heavens. We know what this means, obviously, depending on the Lord, not being self-dependent, not trying to control everything, because the reality is we just don't have control. He waits despite changing circumstances and many uncertainties. Gosh, that speaks for itself. That's just what the journey to motherhood looks like. That's just what infertility looks like. There are so many uncertainties and so many changing circumstances, and nothing can be predicted. We have to find our stability in the Lord. He waits encouraged by the value of the harvest. I love this one. Obviously, we know like the end result, bringing a child home, it's worth every moment of this journey. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Be encouraged by that. Like, it's going to be worth it. And the other thing I want to touch on with this is like, obviously life is not guaranteed. We don't know what the result of our waiting is necessarily going to be. It may look very different than what we originally thought, but I think we do have to realize that even if the harvest isn't the harvest we planned for, there is going to be a harvest through this journey, because that's who the Lord is. The Lord is good. So if you go back in this passage where it talks about Job, I mean, if you don't know the story of Job, goodness gracious, read it, but be prepared. It can feel quite heavy. Essentially, Job had everything taken from him, but the end of his story it's a story of hope. The passage says, you can see how the Lord was kind to him at the end, for the Lord is full of tenderness and mercy. So we have to remember God's character. There is a harvest. It just might not look like the one that you originally planned for, but there is a harvest at the end. And that can encourage you. This one, ooh, this is the one. This is the one that's like hand in hand with the next topic that I'm going to talk about. He waits, encouraged by the work and harvest of others. My ladies over here, I know how hard that is. Like, that is the hardest thing, and I think it's what holds us back from receiving the support that my ladies over here want to give but don't know how to give. How many of us are letting ourselves become discouraged by the harvest of others? We see everyone around us getting to the finish line and receiving that blessing that we want so badly. Instead of letting that encourage us and let that be a picture of God's faithfulness, instead we look at that and we think, oh, God's holding out on me. And we start envying this group of ladies over here, and we start harboring bitterness in our hearts. And pretty soon, we make it really, really difficult for people to love us and support us through these seasons. He waits because he really has no other option. I mean, that speaks for itself. It's like, if you want this, and if you feel confident that the Lord's calling you to be a mother, you don't have an option. Like, you're in this. And I'm in it with you, girl. I'm in it with you. He waits because it does no good to give up. I mean, yeah, that's it. That's it right there. Like, what good is it going to do if I give up? I'm just letting the devil win. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not giving up. No, we're not giving up, sisters. We're not. He waits, aware of how the seasons work. The seasons change. They always change. It's not forever. Yeah, that speaks for itself. We're not going to go any further into that. Last one. Okay. He waits because as time goes on, it becomes more important and not less to do so. It's again realizing the purpose in the season. There's a purpose in the season. The longer the season is, you best believe there's some major purpose in there that the Lord has. And that purpose is going to be shaping you. It might be shaping your marriage. It might be shaping your husband. It might be shaping the people around you. It might be shaping your family. I don't know, but I can promise you this. The longer your waiting season is, the more unfathomable, is that right? Unfathomable purpose that the Lord has for that season. But you gotta be open-handed. The verse that says, "Do not grumble against one another, brethren, lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge is standing at the door." I wanted to read from the commentary on this because I felt like it just really spoke to that one bullet point about not letting the harvest of others discourage you. Times of hardship can cause us to be less than loving with our Christian brothers and sisters. James reminds us that we cannot become grumblers and complainers in our hardship, lest we be condemned even in our hardship. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. Jesus comes as a judge, not only to judge the world, but also to assess the faithfulness of Christians. That's pulled from 2 Corinthians 5:10 if you want to look that up. In light of this, we cannot allow hardship to make us unloving towards each other. Ladies over here, you know what your attitude needs to be. I'm with you. It's a struggle. I kid you not. I'm gonna just be vulnerable for a second. After our second miscarriage in June, I let some bitterness take root in my heart against one of my friends. I don't know why. I was just wrestling with it, even though I knew like she understood my struggle. And finally, the Lord really just dealt with me on it, and I felt a very strong conviction over 2 months. I let 2 months go on of just the Lord being like, you need to talk to her. You need to talk to her. You need to confess that you've been bitter. So literally this morning, I did. I finally confessed to her. And now I'm not carrying that bitterness. Gotta let go of the bitterness. Let it go. Okay, my ladies over here that are in your season of motherhood, you're thriving, you're living the blessing that my ladies over here are just waiting to receive. And you have some close friends or family members that are in this camp over here, and you're just like, how the heck do I support? What do I say? How do I help? I just want to give you some very practical advice. I will say one of the most damaging things that I think that you can do is be silent. I understand that it's hard to not know what to say. I get it. Like, it's uncomfortable, and it can feel weird, and it can feel like you're trying too hard. Or maybe you're invading in someone's personal space, because this is a touchy topic, and a lot of people aren't super like public about their journey. And so I understand. But I think silence is more detrimental than, at least sometimes, than saying the wrong thing. I think silence speaks really loud. And even if your intentions are not to hurt my sisters over here, I think for me personally, I have felt like people's silence just meant they didn't care, and just meant they didn't see me. And like, I don't know, that can be a me problem. That can be a problem in your sisters over here, right? Like, if they have a bitterness issue, they might really just struggle, with how they're perceiving your support or your lack thereof, or your silence, and making it into, like, making a mountain out of a molehill. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I would just say, like, don't be silent. Sometimes silence can be necessary, but I wouldn't say permanent silence. I would say there is a cushion of time between events within the journey that silence is needed. But I would say, like, never be silent for long. I just don't think silence is good, at least not in my personal experience. You're gonna have to get uncomfortable, and it requires a lot of discernment when it comes to, just the verbal supporting someone, and knowing what to say, and knowing how much to say, and knowing how little to say, and knowing which questions to ask and which ones not to ask. I can't give you like a black and white like list of statements and questions to ask and not to ask, and to say and not to say. I just want to say that you need to have discernment, and you should pray for discernment from the Holy Spirit. Every person is different, and I think every woman needs something a little bit different. And so I just think you should think about the person and who they are as a person, and what you know about them, and really let that inform how you support them. Think about their love languages and let that inform how you support them. When I dealt with our miscarriages, acts of service and quality time meant everything to me. Words of affirmation, I still want to hear from you. I don't want silence, but what I didn't like was like just empty words. Like, I felt like sometimes people would just say, hey, I'm thinking of you, I'm praying for you, let me know if you need anything. Instead of saying, let me know if you need anything, I would think about like where someone's at emotionally. They're not gonna ask for anything. I would say the average person's not gonna be like, can you bring me some brownies? I just don't think people are gonna ask when you say, let me know what I can do or how I can help. I think the best thing you can do is show up when it's a good time to show up. Not just like roll up to their house, obviously, but shoot them a text and be like, hey, can I drop off some crumble cookies? Or send flowers and a handwritten card. Making an intentional effort to spend time together, obviously fresh after like a loss or just a huge disappointment in the journey. Yeah, like, have discernment. Maybe that person is like, they just want to ride, okay? Like, that's obvious within the days after a loss or whatever. Here's UPS. Let's go, baby. All right. Get the person out of isolation. I'm convinced it's like the worst thing that you can do. And that's not to say that you don't ever need alone time, but I just think people going through hard things and going through seasons of waiting, isolation can be a tool of the enemy. Like, he will use that time. And so doing whatever you can for your sisters over here to just like show up, like be there, be present. There's also a mindfulness that you need to have with your sisters over here. It's not like you can never talk about motherhood and your own life and journey with your ladies over here, but I think there is a mindfulness that you need to have of where this person is at, and just being guarded with what you talk about, how much you talk about it, and in what way you talk about it. I think one thing that's really bothered me is when people talked negatively about their pregnancy, or like complained about it, or complained about parenthood, like just little things. And obviously, like, it's human, right, for you to have complaints, you know, and it's not really fair for my ladies over here to be like, no, like, you can't complain. I would never complain, because that's not the reality. But it just goes back to the whole discernment thing. Just watch what you say and be mindful of it. And if you feel like you have gotten out of bounds on that, know that my sisters over here will so appreciate it, even if they weren't even thinking about it. Like, it didn't bother them a bit. But if you feel that way and you feel like you need to like come to them and be like, hey, I said something, and I just want to make sure that I'm not hurting you by the things that I'm saying or talking about in front of you. Making that effort just to let them know I'm thinking of the fact that of what you're going through, and like I want to know, how can I be mindful? What does bother you? What does trigger you? How can I help? I think even just asking those questions, even if it feels a little bit weird and uncomfortable, I think that's huge. So huge. I love when people tell me that they're praying for me, but I love even more when someone asks to actually pray for me, or they send me a like voice message praying for me, or they send me scripture. And it really does come down to discernment and intentionality. I think that's all I have. I feel like I said so much. I love a sit down chat. I love a time to just like give you some encouragement and give you some practical advice. I hope that this is helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it, and share it with a friend if you feel like they need it. That's all I have. I'll see you in the next one.